everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about the recent high profile releases of both Barbie and Oppenheimer, the whole trending event of Barbenheimer, and do some box office reporting for both films on their first weekend of release, covering the period of Friday the 21st to Sunday the 23rd of July 2023. So we'll go straight into it then with the opening numbers, and it was a very much spectacular result for both films, easily taking the number 1 and number 2 spots in US cinemas, exceeding expectations. So we'll first look at Barbie, the big budget adaptation of the iconic fashion doll toy character, directed by Greta Gerwig with Margot Robbie in the lead role. It absolutely smashed expectations with a huge approximate 162 million opening weekend to easily claim the number 1 spot. Not only was this the number 1 weekend within the US, it also dethroned Super Mario Bros. As the highest opening weekend of 2023, surpassing that movie's 146 million total. The movie has internationally hit over 182 million for a gross of around 340 million worldwide, and it will no doubt go on to become one of the biggest hits of the year. The movie itself, whilst having a very mixed response and critical reception, it can't be denied that this has been a masterclass in marketing. When we look at the film itself with its aesthetic of bright colours, positive energy and vibes, this was the perfect tone that you would normally associate with Barbie. And casting one of the most known, stunningly beautiful actresses, or indeed women, in the entire entertainment industry in Margot Robbie was a bit of a no-brainer casting, and it clearly hit the female and LGBTQ and more younger demographics square on. Now, whilst I haven't seen the movie, I am aware of the more further criticism of a supposed subtext regarding feminism and social commentary regarding the role of men, and supposed anti-sentiments that many have deemed inappropriate for younger viewers. Now, whilst those debates are happening very much within the online space, which to be honest isn't a surprise, the conversation so far seems to have gone completely over the heads of the more general viewers, as they just saw a movie that was light, fun, and not really heavy-handed, which is really what a Barbie movie should be. So when we look at this so far, it is a prime example of what I've been saying on this channel for many months now, is that a movie's success is down to how much you connect much more to the general audience than what you do within the online community, as the online commentary is much more of a niche demographic. Make these movies appear to be accessible and fun, and you will attain a large audience, especially if you come across as staying close to the source material and the nature of the character. And it seems on a surface level that's what they've done with this Barbie movie. And the success so far is a lesson, especially to Disney and Little Mermaid, and we'll probably talk about that in a separate video. But for now, it's fantastic news for Mattel, the owner of the toy brand, director herself, Greta Gerwig, whose next assignment is the Netflix adaptation of the Chronicles of Narnia. But it's also great news for Margot Robbie, who, despite being one of the most well-known Hollywood actresses, hasn't yet put herself in a true commanding position as a leading actress in the vein of a Julia Roberts or Angelina Jolie. Despite being very prolific, she hasn't yet had that big signature franchise role. Harley Quinn didn't give her that, but perhaps Barbie may finally give her that definitive franchise that she has been searching for. So at times of its chances overall in hitting the $1 billion mark, the signs are very good so far, but we will have to wait for the second and third weekends where perhaps the more negative and far more controversial discourse may find itself reaching to general audiences and may indeed put them off going to see the movie. There have been certain narratives deeming the movie somewhat harmful to younger kids in terms of the messages that it's trying to put out. So again, this may deter other families from going to see it, or indeed going for the second weekend if they didn't have opportunity to go for the first weekend. But so far the signs are very good in terms of Barbie, without question going on to be one of the biggest movies without question of 2023. So we then go on to the second half of Barbenheimer, and that was of course Oppenheimer. The latest Christopher Nolan epic again exceeded expectations with an approximate $82 million within US cinemas, another very impressive take. Again, one of the highest within this year. Internationally, the movie has also had an impressive turnout, grossing over $93 million, and the movie has so far hit a global tally of around 174 to 176 million. Now for me, this was the real surprise of the Barbenheimer event. Now yes, Oppenheimer, it is a Christopher Nolan movie, and that will always generate a certain amount of hype and excitement, especially amongst more adult movie fans. And yes, Christopher Nolan is without question one of the top, if not the most top successful directors of the modern era. But for me personally, I really wasn't sure that a 3 hour plus movie that somewhat of a biopic about the atomic bomb and how it was built would really appeal to mainstream audiences, it really didn't appeal to me, especially given the super serious tone of Nolan's films and the fact that I didn't really have a lot of favour for his most recent efforts from the likes of Interstellar, Dunkirk and Tenet. So I really didn't think Oppenheimer would sell very well, but I was proven very wrong. With it being the biggest opening of Nolan's career within the US since The Dark Knight Rises in 2012, and to be honest, if we really look at it, Oppenheimer was the biggest beneficiary of the Barbenheimer event, which brought more awareness to the movie for mainstream audiences. There would have been many viewers who went to watch Oppenheimer just to be part of the online traction rather than having any real investment in the project itself. Now this is something that we've seen with multiple franchises over the coming years, but at this stage I think studios are just happy to be making money and exceeding expectations. So far Universal's signing of Christopher Nolan has so far looked to have been a really good investment. Now perhaps we'll get a better gauge of how invested people are within this movie within its second weekend. But whatever your feelings are on both films, whether it be Barbie or Oppenheimer, it can't be denied that the whole event or the social media trend or meme of Barbenheimer was a massive success in online promotion and a real big example of how effective marketing can be through social media, and it definitely was a factor in both movies hitting big in cinemas this weekend, especially for Oppenheimer. Now the only caution I would air here is that if studios will try to repeat this marketing initiative for following movies. Every time we get something like this, studios tend to try to recreate it as much as possible. But we do have to try and gain perspective and understand that Barbenheimer is very much something of an anomaly. It wasn't planned from the start, as both Barbie and Oppenheimer are completely different in terms of tone and genre, almost if you like opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of entertainment. This was something that they really kind of fell upon, it caught traction and then they kind of ran along with it. In almost any other scenario, I think especially Christopher Nolan would probably want to distance himself from the likes of a Barbie movie as much as possible. So I just think that's something to gain in mind as we very much bask in the hype of the success in terms of both movies so far. Yes, it's a great achievement, but at the same time, we mustn't get carried away and thinking that this will somehow cause a big paradigm shift within entertainment. So we'll then talk about not so good news for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which dropped 3 places to number 4 in the US with a take of around 90.5 million in only its second weekend of release. The movie sequel has now grossed over 118 million in this territory. Worldwide, the film has now crossed over 370 million. So we continue to ask as to whether this will be a successful entry in the Mission franchise. Now I'm still holding out hope for the movie, as I've mentioned in previous films that Mission Impossible movies tend to have very strong legs, weekend to weekend, despite not having massive opening starts. Now I've seen some people dump on the movie already because it's dropped so low in the US. Overall it had a 64% drop, but with 2 big releases in Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out, it was always going to take a big massive hit. This almost would have happened to any other movie of this type being released, and it further outlines the fallacy of having these massive blockbuster movies opening so closely after one another as what we've seen in both the months of June and July. Now, some people have brought in the factor of the recent writers and actors strike, but we can't really use that excuse as to these release dates would have been scheduled many months beforehand before the strike took place. And we do have to remember that the movie still has had a very good positive reception amongst fans and critics. I just think perhaps opening midweek as opposed to Friday really took away a lot of the hype that a bigger opening weekend could have taken for the film. We do have to remember it did itself have a longer run time of around 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's very much looking now that both Tom Cruise and Paramount very much underestimated the scope and the impacts that both Barbie and Oppenheimer would have. And at the end of the day, despite all of the goodwill, this is just another Mission Impossible movie, the 7th one, so we've seen plenty of them before. And I think in terms of the recent coverage and promotion, for the most part, all of the actors seemed to talk about was all of the crazy stunts that Tom Cruise was doing, rather than the other characters or where the story could lead. But despite all of that, I still hope that Dead Reckoning will see smaller drops in its 3rd and 4th weekends, but once more it's going to have to rely heavily on those overseas numbers in order to save it. We'll then finish off this video talking about The Sound of Freedom once again, which continues to defy expectations and conventions by only dropping around 26% to hold at number 3 position within US cinemas, where it's now grossed over 120 million in this territory. And again, I think a lot of this is down to the recent controversy regarding the subject matter and people's different perspectives. We've had this whole narrative about how mainstream media is supposedly trying to take the movie down. And again, this just draws much more curiosity for people to go and watch the movie and very much find out themselves if it really is as controversial as what many people are making out. So whilst I do believe that the filmmakers were trying to very much tell a very sincere and proper serious look at the whole issue of child trafficking, we can't deny that the supposed outrage and controversy has definitely been a massive factor in the Sound of Freedom's overall success. So here's my overall thoughts and feelings on the recent box office opening on the big massive Barbenheimer event, where we've seen both movies really exceed expectations in terms of opening weekends. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How longer do you think the Barbenheimer trend will carry on, or will we see a massive drop in the second weekends for both movies, especially when we look at Barbie, which seems to have had some sort of more deeper undercurrent of more negative criticism that could maybe impact its second and third weekend of releases. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other subjects or topics or movies or television series that you'd like to see me cover within this channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.